Hello, in this video we are going to look at values, types and operators. This is one of the last theoretical videos that we will have on JavaScript series. So stick along and let's get through values, types and operators. In JavaScript, values, types, and operators form the fundamental building blocks for writing code. Let's begin with values. In the computer's world, there is only data stored as sequences of bits. Bits or binary digits are basically two valued pairs of zeros and ones. Any data in computation is expressed in terms of these bits. For example, the decimal number 22 will be expressed as 000100110 in bits inside the computer. Imagine an ocean of bits. In order to work with such huge quantities of bits without getting lost, those bits are separated into chunks to represent pieces of information, and those chunks are called values. Those values play different roles even though they are all bits. Values are the pieces of information that JavaScript programs work with. They can be concrete data like numbers or text, or representations of states like true or false. Examples of values include numbers, for example, 10, 3.14, -5. Strings, LOL in quotes, JavaScript in quotes also. Boolean, true or false. Special characters, for example, null, undefined, symbol, and big int. And lastly, objects. These are more complex data structures, including arrays and functions. Types. Every value in JavaScript has a type that dictates how it can be used and manipulated. JavaScript has several built-in data types. First, primitive types. Primitive data types are sets of basic data values from which all other data types are constructed. They have the following properties. They have no methods and behave as if they do. They are immutable, that is, they cannot be altered. Examples of these primitive data types are for numerical values, string for textual data, boolean for logical true or false values, null represents the intentional absence of an object, of any object value, undefined represents a variable that has been declared but not yet assigned, symbol represents a unique identifier, and lastly, big int represents all numbers larger than 2 to power 53 minus 1. Non-primitive data types or reference data types. Non-primitive data types are more complex data structures that store references to the actual data rather than storing the data itself directly. Common examples of non-primitive data types include arrays, which are ordered collections of elements of the same data type. Strings, these are sequences of characters. Classes, these are blueprints for creating objects. Then objects, instances of classes. And lastly, interfaces. Define contracts, that classes must adhere to. Key characteristics of non-primitive data types. Reference-based. Variables of non-primitive data types store references to objects in memory, not the actual data. Dynamically sized. Their size can change during program execution, unlike primitive types, which are fixed sizes, often mutable. Their internal state can typically be changed after creation. And lastly, provide complex functionality. They often come with associated methods and attributes for manipulating the data they hold. Lastly, we are going to look at operators. Operators are special symbols or keywords that perform operations on values and variables. They allow us to combine, compare, and transform data. Common types of operators in JavaScript include arithmetic operators. These are the basic symbols we use to perform arithmetics like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Assignment operators. These are used to assign values to variables. Comparison operators compare values and return a boolean. Logical operators combine or invent boolean values. Unary operators, negation, increment, decrement, and type of. Ternary or conditional operator, a concise way to express conditional assignments. And lastly, bitwise operators perform operations on the binary representation of numbers. In that we have seen what values are, what data types are, and what operators are. We are now going to dive into the basics of data types and operators. So, like for instance, we are going to look at primitive data types in details. Non-primitive, we will look at them. Okay, we will look at non-primitive later on after we've looked at primitive data types and operators. So non-primitive will come after primitive and operators.